Welcome, everyone. I hope you guys are doing all well. Sorry, I'm having the mic in my hands today because there's construction happening, so I'm trying to reduce external noise. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So I'm excited to be here with you today because we're going to talk about the next phases of the application development. So I hope that you guys are ready to take notes. So let's start with the biggest mistakes that I oftentimes see candidates make, which is believing that applications are just about checking boxes. I've finished an essay, I finished the resume, I finished the letter of recommendation, but to be honest, it's actually not. The admission committees are building communities, and it's not about checking boxes. They want to see how you think. They want to see how you are, where you're headed, and why you are worth investing in. And I know you are personally investing capital in your degree, but they also want to make sure that they're investing in the right kind of individuals that will continue the school's legacy for many years to come. So today, what I'm going to be working on is show you how to think and build an application just like a winner. Let's dive right in. Oops. So every school phrases what they're looking for a little bit differently. So HBS talks about leadership and impact. Stanford's want to know about what matters most to you and why. Wharton looks for strong fit and for its particularly collaborative culture. But underneath the surface of all of those variations of how they're presenting it, they're all evaluating the same core ingredients to make that decision if you're a good fit for them. First and foremost, they are looking to see if you are intellectually curious and capable to thrive in a rigorous academic setting. That's not just about your GPA and your GMAT or GRE. It's about how you engage with ideas, how you've pursued learning in your career, and how you demonstrate growth over time. The next component is, are you ambitious and self-directed? This is grad school. It's not undergraduate. They're not looking to handhold you through every step of the way. They want individuals who are self-directed and know where they're going and know what they need. So they want to see that you are not just floating through your career, but you're moving actually with purpose. They want to see that you seek out challenges, you're taking initiative, you have a track record of an upward trajectory in terms of your career and growth. Then they also want to look at, do you have the capacity to lead? That doesn't mean that you need to have a management title, official management title, but it does mean that you've influenced outcomes, relied on your teams, made decisions, and sparked change in your organization, whether that's small or large. So leadership shows up in how you act under pressure and how others support you during that period and respond to it during that period. They're also looking to see if you have clarity around where you're going. And does an MBA clearly connect to that path, right? Sometimes applicants have make a decision to pursue an MBA, and based on their goals, it's very clear that an MBA, it's not really going to be the thing that gets you to where you want to go, right? So they need to know that you have done this due diligence and that you've reflected in it, and that that connection is there. So vague goals are a huge red flag, but so is overconfidence without substance, right? So saying, oh, I'm going to do all of these amazing things, but not really dive deeper into why and how does it connect to the school. What they want is clarity, credibility, and self-awareness, because you're not today who you will be in 10 years from now, but you do need to showcase that you have the capacity to grow in 10 years from now. And finally, will you make this community strong? This meaning the schools that you're targeting. Are you someone they can count on to be engaged, collaborative, and generous with their time and ideas, right? You're not someone who is holding on to or just taking and not giving. Will you leave? Essentially, at the end of the day, is the question, the core element of the question is, are you going to leave your MBA class better than you found it, right? Because obviously, just like you grow, business schools and their programs grow. And that's why when we coach applicants to have conversations with alumni, that conversation shouldn't be with an alumnus who graduated in 1990, because that business school no longer looks the same that it did at that point. So these are the questions behind every resume review, every essay read, and every single interview. And your job, starting today, if you haven't started already, is to build a candidacy that answers those questions clearly, with confidence, and in a compelling way. So we're going to talk and dive into how. I'm just going to, I see a question come here. I think it's a question. Oh, it's not a question, just a hi. Hello, welcome. So let's continue. If you have questions, guys, write them in the comments, and I will try to monitor them as I'm speaking live. But we will definitely have a Q&A at the end, and I'll be answering questions as well. So we do have 30 minutes, so I'll just keep moving forward, and then we'll take it from there. So coming back to the slides, so you can't build a strong application until you know what you're working with, right? Too many applicants jump into the essay writing or obsess over which school they're going to choose before they've actually evaluated the raw materials of their own candidacy. And that's kind of like, if we're comparing it to something that we can all understand, is like trying to build a house without inspecting the foundation. Maybe we can't all understand that, but you get the idea, I hope. That you need to understand what you're working with. You need to understand the canvas that you have before you start painting, right? So that is an element that if you haven't done this yet, you have to work on now as a first step. So in order to do this, the first thing is having sort of a diagnostic mindset. So you have to put on your diagnostic hat, proverbial hat, if you will. So just like admissions officers, now you know what they're looking for. You should be looking at your own profile holistically. So look at your academics. Is your undergraduate performance strong? Are there red flags like low GPA or failed classes or weak quant background? That needs to be addressed through supplemental courses or context to the whole narrative. You're going to look at your professional experiences. Does your resume show progression, increasing responsibilities, and impact? Not everyone gets promoted every single year, but that shouldn't stop you from being able to show professional growth. Have you made a strong case for how your work ties into your future goals? That absolutely must be there, even if it's seemingly unrelated, right? Then you're going to look at your leadership. This, of course, does not mean that you need to be managing officially people, but you want to look at, have you led initiatives, influenced decisions, mentored peers, or created change inside or outside of your organization? By that I mean inside, the work itself, or outside, as in extracurriculars, community service kind of engagements. Sometimes those community service engagements happen within the organization, and that's okay as well. So you should definitely log those as leadership experiences. Then you want to look at your career goals. Are they clear, credible, and well-researched? Are they, if they're vague, disconnected, or hard to visualize, then your job is to make sure that they are clear, crystal clear for someone reading them, because the admission team won't sit there reading and analyzing why you're trying to do what you're trying to do. They will spend 5 minutes reading it and move on to the next thing, and then holistically make a decision from there, right? If you have 10,000 applications to review, you wouldn't do that either, right? So just put yourself on the admission team's shoes. and realize that you have to be very clear in terms of what you want to do. And if you're not, then that is your personal job to make sure that it's articulated correctly. Then you want to look at your extracurricular activities. Like I said, those can fall into outside of your organization or within your organization or in college or since college. So are you engaged outside of work? Do your interests show initiative and consistency, or are they sporadic and surface level? That's important to evaluate. When schools review your application, they're not just checking boxes. They're reading across your story to see if everything fits together and if it all points to someone with a vision, self-awareness, and the potential to thrive in their program while in business school, but also thrive in the business world once you leave, because you will forever be a representative of that institution moving forward. So if you're not sure where you stand, because I know, we are all too close to our own story to be able to see the strengths and weaknesses, I suggest that you complete our free MBA profile evaluation quiz. It's on the website. There will also be in the comments of this live session. It's free. It only takes a few minutes, and you'll get a high-level view of your strengths and your weaknesses, some red flags, what you should be prioritizing next. It's a great place to start if you haven't started that process yet. Perfect. Now, you don't need to be perfect. I just said perfect, but you don't need to be perfect. That's not what business schools are looking for. In fact, perfection often reads as inauthenticity. What admission committees want to see is self-awareness, growth, and readiness, not perfection. So sure, some things you can't change, like you can't go back to fix your GPA in college or rewrite your entire career trajectory for however many years you've been working. But what you can do is change the narrative from one of limitation to one of resilience and evolution. I've worked with clients where all they saw is the negative. All they saw was the low GPA, the decision to leave this program, the decision to leave this company as, an element of, what they wish their application would have looked differently. But that's not what we're working with. You have to be realistic in terms of, this is who you are today. How can you change the way you see yourself, the way you see your experiences, to demonstrate that you are someone who is resilient, who evolves over time, because that evolution will continue to take place. So some examples: a weak academic record. If you have a weak academic record, you want to pair it with quantitative, heavy courses, or heavier, not necessarily heavy per se. So courses like MBA Math, it's a great place to start. It's the easier one. Harvard Business School offers a certificate program called CORE, which is pre-MBA prep, quantitatively heavy, and it's also very rigorous in terms of time commitment that it requires. Or you can take other recent courses that are offered by your local schools. It should be something that has a grade that you'll be able to present to the admission team that you have completed it, not just passed, but actually completed it successfully, especially if you're targeting top 20 business schools. If you've had limited formal leadership, so you want to highlight times when you influence outcomes, drove change, or took initiative, again, inside or outside of work. This means you have to reflect. You can't just, or you can, I guess, but the most compelling narratives comes when you spend time reflecting on what your experiences have looked like. Most people don't have a diary of all the leadership opportunities that they've been involved in to date, and therefore they have to take the time now to actually do that reflection, because you don't get a chance to have an interview if you don't do the reflection effectively in your applications, right? Because the interviews are by invitation only. Maybe you have unclear goals, so do the hard work of, again, reflecting, researching, networking to refine the story that's not just only compelling, but also credible, right? That's possible for you to get to where you are looking to go. The most competitive candidates are the ones who can explain why their path makes sense, what they've learned in the journey, and where they're going next with obviously clarity and conviction. It's not about poetry. It's about being clear, crystal clear in terms of what you want. And the truth is, it's hard to do it alone. Most applicants are too close to their own story. And I know when I went through my application process, I was too. And the reality is that oftentimes a coach can really become an invaluable resource to help you rewrite the way you see your life experiences, and to help you see your experiences really strategically, connect the dots, and position yourself powerfully for your target business goals. So if you want to dive deeper, I invite you to book a free one-on-one consultation where we discuss working together if we're a good fit. This is a very personalized coaching approach that we do here, and it's a very lengthy one. So it's important that we find the right fit. And we will discuss your candidacy, areas that are working, areas that need to be worked on, that you need to pay attention to. And if we decide to work together, then we'll develop a roadmap for what's the next several months, almost a year, is going to look like, depending on when you're looking to apply. Again, it's not about being flawless. It's about being intentional, and we can definitely help you get there. Oftentimes, so what you should be doing for the next several months, especially for those who are applying in round one. Most applicants don't value what they currently have in their hands. So your calendar is your greatest and most underutilized asset. Use it. Too often, applicants feel like they're waiting for the right moment to apply. Wait for that test scores, wait for the essays to come out, wait for the recommenders to get back to them. This is one of the most common ones that I hear. It's waiting for inspiration to strike me before I start writing my essays. The honest truth is that time doesn't work in your favor if you approach your applications in that way. You have to be intentional in terms of how you use your time. And the strongest applicants don't just write better essays, they make better use of the weeks and months leading up to the submission. That means strategically selecting coaches, selecting and coaching the recommenders, strengthening your weak spots in your profile, deepening extracurricular involvement, building a narrative that grows stronger each week. And obviously, if you're still working through your test scores, you're evaluating how fast and how far you've come so far to make sure that you're making the most out of the time that you have. Most candidates spend most candidates spend weeks tweaking sentence structures instead of leveling them up with substance. So, looking at their leadership stories, their goals, aligning with each school, that's going to be really important, because your story is one, but how you're telling that story is going to be dependent on the target schools that you are, for lack of a better word, targeting. So leveling up your narratives is where you need to be focusing a lot of your time. And then, the sentence structure, that is a minor in the journey of the MBA application. And that's essentially how we approach the coaching applicants in this application game. We won't just help you tell the story, we help you live it better in the weeks ahead, months ahead. We map out what needs to happen and when it needs to happen by, so you're not cramming the last minute with a last minute application, or wasting time on low impact tasks, work that you have to do. What our clients know when they sign up with us is that they know what they're going to focus on every single week, why it matters at that specific time, that it's done at that specific time, when each milestone needs to be completed, how to make the most of the limited time that you have in this application journey. So our approach here at Sia is high accountability and high strategy process that really makes sure that you're always doing the right thing at the right time. So you build obviously a stronger candidacy, and it's building, from the bottom up, your entire application. And really, that's the difference between one rushing an application and a refined, results-driven application. We're definitely here to help you with that. So if you're interested in discussing our approach, I invite you again to reach out for a consultation. Now, what I don't want you to take out of this is to think that, oh, you have to just work hard. It's really not about working hard. It's about working smarter. Every year, I speak with applicants from world's top leading firms. So think Google, think McKinsey, think Goldman Sachs. Like we all know, these are household names. So they are often stunned when they get rejected, even though they've worked for these companies. They say, well, we work, 80-hour weeks, led high impact projects, and even earn promotions. I've had applicants who've had 5 promotions in 5 years. So it means every single year they were promoted, and yet they still were passed over by these schools. So the question is why, right? One of the things that I noticed is that they didn't really put together strategic application. They assumed that the brand, that the companies that they worked for, the schools that they went to, are going to carry the weight. Admission committees are not looking to admit a resume. They're not looking to admit Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or whatever company you're coming from. They're building a class of future leaders and future change makers. Your pedigree, so the companies that you worked for, the colleges that you come from, can definitely open doors, but it won't carry you through. What does win is a sharp understanding of how your experiences have shaped you specifically. Obviously, a well-aligned story that connects your past, present, and future. A clearly articulated vision of why an MBA, why now, and why this specific school that makes sense for your future goals. And most of all, the thing that most people leave out is authenticity that cuts through the noise. And oftentimes people think authenticity means raw, I'm going to say whatever I feel like saying, and that's actually not the kind of authenticity I'm talking about here. But you definitely need to be authentic in terms of where your weakness, where your strengths lie, and really then focus on what makes you uniquely you. And what that is essentially what we do here. We help you take that raw material, take the raw work that you've done, the brand name, the non-brand name, the accomplishments, leadership moments that you've had, and help you distill them into a narrative that's not just about polish, but it's also very personal and showcases your uniqueness. And that speaks directly to the program that you are targeting. So I'm going to tell you a story of a client because I know we're reaching towards the end, and I have just a few more slides, I think. I worked with a serial entrepreneur with multiple successful ventures, including multi-million-dollar exit. He had the kind of track record that a lot of people, even going to business school, dream about. He also had the numbers, so to back up, right? So strong GPA, standout test scores, years of deep, authentic involvement in the LGBTQIA community. So if you look at the numbers and all of that sounds wonderful. But despite all of that, he was rejected for two separate application cycles. So 2 years he tried to apply and was rejected. Why? Because he worked with previous coaches that helped him build a polished application, but not a strategic one. Polished application means, okay, what do you want to say to the business schools? Okay, I'll help you tell it. Whereas a strategic one is, What are your experiences? Okay, these are the ones that matter to business schools. Let's dive deeper into these, right? So they, focus on that surface level presentation, not the deeper narrative that the admission committees are actually responding to. So when we ended up working together, we worked through the application. We didn't try to make him look like a consultant or make him look like an investment banker, because he was neither. We didn't bury his entrepreneurial background to chase the name brands. Instead, we helped him own his multidimensionality. And that's really, really important. And it's also really hard to do for most people because, again, you are very, very close to your own story. And we helped this particular client articulate why his unconventional path was not a liability, but a strength. We focused on clarifying the through line across his ventures, what he built, how he led, and why all of that mattered. We helped him connect his entrepreneurial grit and community leadership to a bold, value-driven post-MBA vision. Coached his recommenders to speak to his strategic thinking, collaboration, and impact across, different in an organization, but also with other companies that they work with. Framing his application not, again, as a list of achievements, but as a cohesive story of growth, purpose, and future potential. So he ended up getting into Michigan Ross, and one that truly resonated with what his character and what his value and baseline of, what's important to him. But again, he didn't change his resume. We didn't do any new activities. He didn't start new companies. We just changed the approach in which the story was told. And that's what we do here. And that's what we focus on to make sure that your story is one that resonates with business schools. So next moment, so what I want you to do after this is to act with intention, right? That's really, really important. The difference between a strong application and a standout one, again, isn't about luck, it's about strategy. So it's about knowing what matters, when to act, and how to elevate every piece of your profile, every piece of your application. So you're going to be conducting your personal audit. Use the free quiz that I mentioned earlier, if that's helpful to you, and build a plan. How are you going to be using X amount of months that you have until your target deadline? So if you're applying to round one, you have very little time. Harvard already decided to release their deadlines, which is September 3rd for this coming year. Essays are probably going to be released around the 20th of May. So you have about 20 days until those happens if you're targeting Harvard, and others will quickly start releasing those essays as well. So be strategic, build your application, because irrespective of what the questions are, there are elements in the application that are school agnostic, question agnostic, and you can start working on those before the essays come in. So map out your plan and then polish only at the end. So I will be opening the floor to questions, and I know we have a minute left, but let's see what we got, what questions we have. What branch? Oh, sorry, I skipped. Okay, so the question that I see here in the chat, I'm gonna just read it out loud so that I, safeguard your name for when this is going to be replayed. Is there a specific CGPA I should be maintaining to have a better chance at getting in? Well, if you're thinking about maintaining a CGPA, that to me translates to you still being a student, which means you should be looking at the deferred MBA program. And for deferred MBA program, you need the highest top 5%, top 1% of your class. So whatever that means for your school, because I'm assuming you are from India, given that you have the CGPA format, every school has their own valuation. It's like 1 in 100 or 1 in 10. But that obviously means different for different schools. So you should be, if you think of rank, top 5%, top 1% of your class. If you already finished this process, then obviously there's nothing you can do about your CGPA. You can just focus on taking courses, like I mentioned earlier, through Harvard Business School's core or something along those lines to help you really strengthen your CGPA that's already existing. So this question, I'm not sure I fully understand. So what branch of MBA should I be looking for with a degree in economics? I'm strong in econometrics and microeconomics. MBAs are general MBAs. So people who have an interest in marketing, like you can do any one of those. An MBA is a general degree. Your focus should be what are you going to do? What do you want to do long term? And then determine from there what skills you have and what skills you don't have yet before deciding what major. I'm assuming the branch you mean major within an MBA. And just know that unless you're applying to some schools that have specific applications to specific majors, you can definitely change your major once you're in business school. Next question is, how many coffee chats do applicants usually do with students from representative schools that they want to apply to? What should be a goal of those calls? It really depends. I would say I typically recommend about 5 per school, which if you're applying to 6, you know how many calls you have to make. Or have rather. And in terms of the goal of those calls, it should be about learning what the program offers specifically that will help you get to your goals, right? Everything about business school is around your goals. So you should always be mindful that this is a purposeful career move for you. And the purpose is for you to get the skills you need, the exposure you need, the network you need to get to where you want to go. All right, we're definitely out of time. So thank you so much for being here. Just two admin discussions. So next week, we're going to talk about how to strategically select the school, the programs that you are going to be applying to for this application cycle. So what do you need to do? And then we're going to have a special event that I'm so excited about. Berkeley Haas. We're going to have essentially on the 14th of May, the commencement speaker at the Berkeley Haas join us for a live session to discuss all things Berkeley. So if you're considering Berkeley, if you're interested in one of those schools, I strongly encourage you to register for that event. Write your questions in advance because that'll help me make sure that I ask those questions whether you join live or not. I'm so excited to talk about all that experience and also what does it take to become the commencement speaker at a school like Berkeley Haas. Excellent. So I encourage you to join me next week. Again, we're going to talk about school selection. And let's see, there's one more question that maybe I can answer quickly. How can I effectively highlight my background in community development and monitoring and evaluation when applying for an MBA at top UK universities? So essentially that component is going to come. So UK universities have an application that is much more, that's heavier in terms of workload than US schools. Now I suggest that you look at holistically what your community development have been and where does that make most sense for you to present it in your business schools application, your target business schools application. So that is going to be, it should show up on your resume. It definitely should show up in the application portal, but then also look at what questions they're asking and how does this relate to those questions that they're specifically applying to. It's hard for me to tell you exactly how to do it because I don't know exactly what your goals are. I don't know what your background looks like specifically, but definitely look holistically. Again, they're looking at your application holistically. You have to look at your application holistically, where those experiences are going to present themselves and how you can weave your experiences in a way that makes sense for a reader when it's to sound authentic but also be strategic in terms of what you're including in there, that it makes sense for that specific institution that you're targeting. All right. Thank you so much. I love the engagement. Keep writing questions. We'll be monitoring this live for the next week. So if you have questions, we can respond to them in the comments. And join us. Subscribe to our channels to be notified about all our future events. We will have quite a few more coming up, and you don't want to miss them. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next week.